Let me show you how I rebuilt the rag joint steering coupler on my 1975 Lincoln Continental. Alright, so don't mind my messy work area here. I need to clean this thing up after I get done here, but I've been resealing the gearbox, did that, and then switched over to this rag joint. This is our original one, and it kind of looked okay, but it was starting to blow out right here, and I was just worried about it. So I don't know if you've tried to find one for one of these cars, but I couldn't find one. I couldn't find a rebuild kit that fit it. And you can find the joint itself. It does not have the best of reviews. And when you look at it, I don't have experience with the exact one. I'm not going to say the company, but from what I could find, there's only one company that makes them. And when I looked deeper into it, the reviews were not good. And when I look at the pictures, what I see is the rag joint part, this part, has no belting in it. So you can see like this Dorman replacement, it's belted. The original is belted. And what that means is, it's got like nylon threads in it. Kind of think about it like fiberglass resin with fiberglass mat. It's kind of how this works. You've got the nylon belting in there, just like a tire. You've got belts that give the rubber strength. Now, I've had experience with some of these in different applications, buying replacements that don't have the belting in it, and they do not hold up, and they give a sloppier steering feel because there's movement in them. These are pretty stiff, but you get the ones that just have the rubber and they flex a lot. You get a little bit of this with the rubber giving, like as you turn, the rubber between here squishes, and it just leads to a sloppier feeling. So I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to rebuild this one. So what I did, I bought this Dorman 31005. I bought a couple of Dorman kits, and from what I could find, none of them, the disc actually works, but the pegs do. So originally this thing had these pegs, and they're staked, or however you want to call it. They just press them in, squish the end down to hold them on. There's a smaller one too, floating around here somewhere, but that's how they hold them on. So these Dorman kits, they come with those pegs, but they're threaded like that. And so I bought the kit just to get those. And what I did, this, if you look, it is not the correct spacing. It's off. And I saw where somebody said they just oblonged out the holes to make it work. I didn't want to do that. So kept looking, and I came up with an idea, and I'm gonna let you look at it before I tell you what it is. I'll tell you, it's not a tire. I was like, what about the sidewall of a heavy tire? No, it's conveyor belt. Well, I think that's what it is. That's what it was sold as. It's a piece of conveyor belt. It is super thick, beefy conveyor belt. This is some heavy duty stuff. It's probably better material than what that stock rag joint was, but it has belting in it. I bought this actually off of Home Depot, and I did think about conveyor belts, and that's how I found this. I looked up conveyor belt because I was looking at belted rubber, and I was like, well, what about a conveyor belt? And so I found one, the thickest one I could find, which, to be honest, it's thicker than the Dorman, but it's the same thickness as our original one. So that's what I went for. The only downside to that was the hardware that came with it. So It's a little bit short, so these have a stop on them like this, and it is squishing the rubber down. And I guess maybe this is thicker here too, but I could not get a lock nut or lock washer on there. And so, you know, that's what we've got. And I just put a lot of red Loctite on it. These are actually stop nuts on here, but I didn't have, these are either metric or fine thread. Let's see. Yeah, the fine thread standard. I didn't have any stop nuts, but that would have been the way to go. But a red Loctite, it's not going to let go, and these things are tight. I just put some vice grips clamped on here, tighten these down super tight, both of them, and that's what we got. You know, it's squishing the rubber a little bit, but it was doing the stock one like that too. Like I said, these are the original thickness, and if you look, that is about the same as well. So the mount that it clamps down on the rubber is the same as stock, and we've got the same thickness material that we did stock. So that's what we came up with. Now, how I got from that flat piece to this, you can see it's a little bit kind of cattywampus, but it's got flex to it. And once we get it on there, it's gonna straighten out. But so how we got from that is we first drew a square line, or basically a plus sign, using straight edges on that rubber. I don't know if you can see any remnants of my lines. Must be on the other side. Can't see it. Anyway, drew a line so we'd have a center point, and then once we drilled it, we would still have reference to our crosses where we need to line up these. Does that make sense? So if you draw this on the rubber, you know, you take, boom, but you use a straight edge to get it completely straight. And then of course you drill here, then you drill your big, this guy, and then you go back and you drill this guy. So what you're left with is not that and not this. So then I took and I laid my original one over it, centering up the center hole, and let it line up. Made sure it lined up with my pluses, and then I just went in here and, sorry, got you all off centered. Just went in here, marked all my spots. So we use the center hole to center, and you know, center hole to center to drill this, and then the center hole to center to drill this bigger hole. Still got the plug in it, and then use that center hole to line up this, and then used our lines to help line all this up. Marked it, drilled pilot holes in these 4 holes, or well, like that, and then came back with the right size, well, say right size, it's a tad undersized for the holes. So I used the things here as a guide. So this piece here, this shoulder, there's a shoulder on this bolt that goes through this bracket, goes through the rubber, and bottoms out on here. So basically the hole in this is smaller than the hole in this. So it bottoms out. So this is a metal to metal clamp. It's not clamp, the shoulder on this bottoms out to this. That's how all these bolts are. This shoulder on this bottoms out to here, so that it's not basically, if your rubber gave some, it doesn't affect this clamping action. I don't know if I'm making sense here. But anyway, so drilled it slightly smaller hole than this because I wanted a good tight fit around the rubber, and ended up having to kind of press these in. Just put a socket over the back side of it and pushed it on, and it pushed through the rubber because it was a tight fit on the rubber, which, like I said, what I wanted. Same thing on these. And this is what we ended up with, and I think this is going to hold up well. And I've got now, you know, of course I'm going to have to heat these things up. If I ever have to get this thing apart, I'll remember. I've got red Loctite on here. I'm going to heat these up to get them off. But this thing is rebuildable without me buying anything now. I'd have to make a new disc, but I've got enough of that belt, conveyor belt, to last a lifetime of replacing these things. And I think this material is going to hold up well. I don't know, you know, what do y'all think? I mean, yeah. About the best thing I could come up with. And, you know, if this thing does fail, this is what these are for. This will lock in. If the rubber fails, this locks in and you still have steering. You know, this catches them. So that's how that works. So I think this will work well. I'm happy with it. And it's the best thing I could come up with, and I think it's a lot better than I would get with an aftermarket coupler. So that's what I did. I'm hoping that makes sense to y'all. But again, this is a Dorman 31005. I'll put a link in the description to this and to the rubber belting. Keep in mind, this is a do at your own risk kind of deal, because, you know, this belting is not made, this rubber belt is not made for this. You know, I'm using it in a critical application steering in a manner it was not designed to do. So I'm assuming that risk myself, and, you know, yeah. So just wanted to put that out there, because I don't want to be responsible if it fails. Do your own research, find a material that you feel is suitable, and go that route. Now, the other thing, this was slightly larger than what I needed. It's close to the size I had. So I just took this thing, after I had all my holes drilled, I took it and just rotated the rubber piece on my bench grinder and just kind of shaved it down just a hair. It actually cleaned up the edges as well. It was kind of, I don't know if you can see on the inside, that one's got some frayed nylon. Well, the outside had that as well, until I, you know, went over it with the bench grinder and, you know, just kind of made this thing just a hair smaller around. But again, like I said, I did that after I had all these holes, because the outside diameter is not technically critical, other than the fact that it just needs to fit inside of this. But if it was not completely round, it does not matter, because we've already drilled our holes. You know, everything on this thing is controlled by the alignment of these two holes with these two holes. And as long as those are aligned properly, then, you know, this piece is in alignment. What? Yeah. I don't think I'm making any sense. So let me know how y'all would have done this. This is what I came up with. If you've got a material you think would fit, or if you have found some of these in the proper diameter. Now, what I can do real quick, I'll give you just a rough estimate. So the Dorman, oh, come on, is right at 2 1/4 center to center. Yep, 2 1/4. And our stock one, center to center, is 2 1/2. So if you've got one that you can say is 2 1/2. Now, the crazy thing is, when you look at these, most of them go by, you know, like if you actually look this up, it'll say, you know, it's a 3 1/4 disc or whatever. Well, This is technically, well, it's just a hair over 3 1/4, but I think it's just frayed. Let's try it right there. It's technically a 3 1/4 disc as well, but the spacing of the holes, if you look, you know, there is just a thin, you know, say 1/4 inch right there between that and there versus about a 1/2 inch. Well, close to a half. Anyway, the spacing right there is the difference. So I couldn't find one of these, and this is the route we went. I bought another kit as well. It looked like it actually had the same hardware. This one, when I got it from Amazon, it was open in the package. It got messed up, so I used that one only because of that. And I measured the rubber piece on the other one in the package, and it was not going to help me, and it looked like it had the same hardware. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna go put this on the car. Again, thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below. Let me know how you would have done this. And we've got a lot more to go on this car. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more.